All right, we're live. Hello. I can see there's already some people in the chat. Random Silas and Sir Zhao Zhao already waiting for me as I come in. So yeah, welcome to the stream. This is for anybody who's first time. It is in the stream a hour-long thing I do once a week before a new video comes out. Hang out with the audience, answer some questions, rant about stuff, and then we see where we go from there. So I see Jenga Tree 121 and 1 through 8 is here, and Timey. So basically, yeah, the gist of this whole thing is I hang out, talk about stuff, wait for a new video to come live at the end of the hour, which, is when you can go and like and share and subscribe and get a whole bunch of fun stuff. Get a new video. Hello, blind pilot. I think I said hi to everybody so far. So I'm trying to think of what I could start the conversation with. This week has been quite crazy. I feel like I haven't been able to stop working for several days. Yeah, I shaved my beard. I basically was going to go and trim it, but then I turned the buzzer. I've made the buzzer too low, and then I ended up just shaving, and I was like, ah, crap. Okay, well, guess I got to roll with it now. How's your history going today? History's going great. But yeah, so my week is I've been volunteering for the NDP and making videos for them, and they have some quite crazy timelines that I have to hit because the election is today, and I'm actually going to go out canvassing tonight. So it's a crazy busy day and week. I've also gotten some job homework. So I've been applying for jobs, and they've been giving me work to do. Like some have been asking me to write some articles. Some have been wanting me to call and talk about some things. So there's been a whole lot of that going on. So I feel like I haven't been able to stop. But luckily, VidCon is just 2 weeks away, less than 2 weeks away. And I'll be able to get away from all of this and go to California for a while. So I got a couple questions. So 1 through 8 wants to know what the video for this week is about. This week's video is about the Stonewall riots, series of riots that happened after a police raid of a gay nightclub in New York City in 1969. That basically was the spark of the modern LGBTQ plus rights movement. So that's what it's about. It's pretty cool stuff. What do you think of? Frozzy108 wants to know what I think about Jagmeet Singh. Well, Jagmeet Singh was not my first choice. I will say that. Jagmeet Singh I was a pretty, when I met so Jagmeet Singh is a leader that I think I'm pretty disappointed, not disappointed. I wanted Nikki Ashton to win, and she didn't. And Jagmeet Singh was the person who did win, so I was bitter for a while. But he seems to be better than I anticipated, and so he seems to be doing all right. He's throwing people out of the party for sexual harassment. He's I don't know. I think that we'll see. We have an election next year in which Jagmeet Singh is going to be, the face of the NDP. So we'll see how he does then. But so far, I'm okay with him. Who are you hoping to meet at VidCon? Well, Jenga121, Jenga Tree 121, exclamation mark. I have a few people that. So I went to VidCon last year, and I had a really good time hanging out with a lot of people who went there last time. That's where I ran into Cody again, and we kind of rekindled our friendship. And I met a bunch of people there. And what I hope to do this year is to spend more time meeting with people and less time awkwardly going to like panels that tell me the same thing I've already heard a million times. I probably think that since I met so many people at VidCon last year, the new people that I'm hoping to meet, I'd hope to meet Daniel Bainbridge, who runs the channel The Origin of Everything. And that would probably be the top person I'm looking to meet. But there's some people too that when I met them at VidCon, there was. So when I met him, when I met like the guy who runs, when I met Sam, who runs Wendover Productions, I was kind of. It was kind of brief, and I would like to spend more time with those people. And I also know that he's going to be like, or that I know that Cody's not going to be there. So we'll see if I can actually get in touch with people. There's a lot of people that I really was looking forward to meeting again at VidCon who turn out to not be coming. So we'll see what happens. Doesn't the NDP have horrible poll numbers? Depending on the level you're talking about, federally they're in third place, not distant third place, but they're in third place. They have there's an election coming up next year. They were the official opposition until 2015, so you know they could get there. They could do all right. I think that they would be okay to. They stand a chance. There's been a lot has changed between 2015 and now, and so the NDP could improve its standing in the federal government. As far as the NDP here in the Ontario election that's coming up today, they are neck and neck with the Conservatives, and so you know, very likely that they're either going to form a minority government or be the opposition. So they're not doing so bad. Sir Zhao Zhao, is the NDP a party? Yes, they're called the New Democratic Party of Canada. They are sort of the beveled edge residue of the socialist movement that happened in Canada in the 20th century. They're kind of like an amalgamation of a bunch of sort of populist socialist movements that happened out west. And at the moment, they're a left-wing social democratic party, sometimes edging on democratic socialist, although they back away from that title fairly often, that try to be this sort of bright and optimistic and positive left-wing political party. But often they end up being they end up just trying to fail at things. Like I always say that the NDP are experts at snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, because anytime they're getting any sort of support, they then veer to the center to try and get more people to vote for them, and that ends up making them lose because there's always the Liberal Party. The Liberal Party always can out-centrist the NDP any day of the week. So wait, there's an election in Ontario? I live in America. Yes, 1 through 8. There is an election going on today. It's a pretty big deal. This is going to be a real big shakeup. I think somebody's asking about the people who are trying to get the power, so we'll see what's going on. Tristan, have you already checked JJ McCullough? I talked about him in the last stream. Let me see. Let's see. Did I look up this person? A political oh, he's a cartoonist, huh? I did not look up JJ McCullough. I am sorry. I am looking him up now, and I probably shouldn't do that during a stream. Oh gosh. So many questions. Okay. Is Ace banned? Maybe. I should probably take a look at that because he shouldn't be. But he might have been because he was posting a bunch of tanky stuff, and I know that when Fedor moderates the chat, he can be quite intense. Let me just see if he's on the list here. It doesn't look like he's on the banned list, so I think he just might not have been showing up. I'm not sure. Okay. Okay, so there's a lot of questions to get through, so I should probably pick up the pace. I think that Ace just doesn't like the fact that I'm not a tanky, and he got tired of me. Talked about what ideology the NDP have. The NDP are social democrats, if I were to give an answer. Okay. Michael Kirshner, how do you feel about President Fuckface using the War of 1812 to impose tariffs against Canada? I actually think it's pretty funny. So, like, the whole, like, Canadians burning down the White House thing as, like, didn't use, like, as an argument against, like, globalization or like a reason why he doesn't trust the Canadians in international relations or some dumb thing. But also, I know that Canadian nationalists, especially like the Conservative Party, tend to use like the War of 1812 as kind of like this canard to try to make Canadians have some sort of identity, because Canada is this country that has no real strong national identity. So it's and you use like burning down the White House thing, but I mean, there's a couple things you could say. You could say, one, Canada didn't exist in 1814. We were still a British colony, although that's a misnomer, because the people who fought in it were Canadians. The War of 1812 was an attempt by the Americans to grab territory from Canada because Britain was distracted fighting Napoleon in Europe. And so I think it's kind of funny that the U.S. president uses this line of burning down the White House. And I was like, oh, but like that was the end of the war. But this is a war that started because the United States invaded Canada. Like, the biggest battle of the War of 1812 was the Battle of Stony Creek, which happened not too far from here. And we have like Fort York and a whole bunch of like defensive borders of the United States because of threats of American invasion. And so, like, I don't know. I think that he's intentionally misremembering history. But it's funny because this kind of like appealing to things that happened over 200 years ago in order to make political points about things that you do today is really dumb. And this is like the kind of stupid nationalist rhetoric that is kind of the reason why I think a lot of the Paradox fan base are like full of Nazis and random shit like that. All right. Something has changed within me. There you go, Hanbaluki. Some things are not the same. Da, 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 da. The rules of someone else's game. All right. According to American historians, the War of 1812 started because Britain was kidnapping American sailors. Yeah, impressment was actually part of the War of 1812, and there was like Britain was not innocent in this thing either. So the U.S. saw a strategic angle to go in to try and get the United States when the British were distracted. The United States also had this sort of manifest as they always thought that they were going to take over the United States. They were going to take over Canada. They always thought that was like, inevitable, that it was just the unfinished part of the American Revolution. But three, the British were doing a bunch of random shit too. The British were giving weapons and supplies to indigenous groups in order for them to raid frontier settlements of the United States, which, good idea because, they were defending their home territory, but the British were not doing it for that purpose. They were not nearly that altruistic. They were definitely doing it to mess with the Americans. And then there was impressment, in which, the British were capturing American sailors and forcing them into the British Navy. There's also the fact that the United States was really mad at Canada because Canada was the end of the Underground Railroad. And there was, so America and Canada were always sniping and fighting with each other because runaway slaves were escaping the United States into Ontario, and we would not let them move in. And so, can you sing live, "Oh Canada"? I'd rather not. But yeah. What do you? So I am Cairo. What do you think of Justin Trudeau? Justin Trudeau is all right. I voted for Justin Trudeau just to keep it 100 because Cody. Oh, sorry. I voted for Justin Trudeau because we were in a situation in which the New Democrats, who were run by Tom Mulcair at the time, and Justin Trudeau were both promising that the 2015 election was going to be the last election with first past the post voting. And so there was a movement that I was pretty involved in, which was trying to stop the election. Hello, wingless monkey. So they're trying to vote for anybody who was, see you later, 1 through 8. We're trying to stop anybody who is not trying to elect anybody who is not a conservative in each riding. And the NDP started campaigning like a week before the election. So it was a bad time. And so it was just ridiculous. And so you read my reply to your reply about Pinker. Yeah, you're the person who said, I've lost all respect for you because I pointed out that Steven Pinker said that Ashkenazi Jewish people are smarter, by blood or something, than other people. Either way, I keep getting distracted. So I thought that if we elected a Liberal or NDP government in 2015. All right. Well, there's someone else who said that about Steven Pinker, so maybe not you. But the whole thing went down because the NDP and the Liberals were going to be in charge, and they were going to get rid of first past the post voting, and we could have an actual election in 2019. But then the Liberals got elected and immediately backed away from doing that, and so I gave up. I gave up on the Liberals after that, and I haven't voted Liberal since. And I'm not going to ever again because the Liberal Party is blatant liars who will do anything for votes, and they will never push a progressive agenda ever. They are a right-wing party that uses left-wing rhetoric. And so really the NDP is the only party that I can actually consider anything positive happening with. And so now I'm going to be working with the NDP pretty much nonstop for the future. They're the only party that I think that we on the left can actually get anything progressively done with. And so, yeah, Justin Trudeau is a very skilled liar. I think he's a prime minister who says much, does little, and yeah, I don't see much hope in the Liberal Party because there's so Frozzy 108 wants to know who are the people vying for power in the election. So right now, the Ontario election is between three major parties. They're the same parties as the federal. They're like provincial versions of the federal parties. So there's the currently ruling party, the Liberal Party, which is the Ontario version of Justin Trudeau's party. Then there's the NDP, the Ontario NDP, which is the NDP version of the Ontario NDP. And there's the Progressive Conservatives, which used to exist at the federal level, but now they merged with a far-right party from Alberta and just became the Conservative Party. So there used to be a Progressive Conservative and a party called the Canadian Alliance, and they merged in the early 2000s to just become the Conservatives. So the Progressive Conservatives are like kind of the Conservatives, but they're maybe a little less right-wing. Either way, the leader of the Liberal Party is a liberal. She privatized electricity and squirreled away a bunch of. Well, she did. The leader, Kathleen Wynne, didn't do this. But the party has been in charge for 15 years, and the party before scrounged a whole bunch of money in this kind of thing, and it just got gross. And when this election came up, then the Liberal Party all of a sudden remembered to have all these progressive positions in their new budget that they're never going to fall through with. I've learned to see through that stuff. Thank you, Fedor, for taking care of chat for me. But the NDP is trying to push for integrating the dentistry system into our medical system so that we don't have to pay to go to the dentist anymore, and trying to have the government kind of take over pharmacare. And so those are the ones that those are the things that are going. And the Conservatives, so the Progressive Conservatives are led by Doug Ford, and Doug Ford is a sticker mogul from the Ford family, which are not like the car company Ford, but a different Ford. So Doug Ford is 1, a millionaire, 2, possesses like a sticker fortune, 3, apparently was a drug dealer when he was a teenager, and 4 is the brother of the late mayor of Toronto, Rob Ford. If you remember Rob Ford with all the crack smoking mayor of Toronto. He's dead now, but his brother is the leader of the Progressive Conservative. And also, there's also another case too where there was a leadership race really quick because the leader of the Progressive Conservatives was a guy named Pat Brown. Yeah, Pat Brown. And he got Me Too'd like right before the election started. So like he got all these accusations of sexual harassment. And he left the party, and the new leadership was between Doug Ford and like the daughter of Brian Mulroney, who is like Canada's version of Ronald Reagan, and a third person that I'm forgetting right now. And Doug Ford came out, and now he's poised to win the election. The way that the polls are looking, it looks like Doug Ford is probably going to be premier. My best hope is that we can argue him down to a minority government, which is where he has the most seats, but not over half. But even that's looking like a long shot. But the NDP are looking like they're going to sweep a lot of seats in this election, and that the Liberal Party are going to lose a ton of their seats. So it looks like 2011 kind of all over again. So that's interesting. That's basically the stakes of the election. There is also the Green Party, which like polls about 9% of the popular vote, but they don't ever take a seat because first past the post, etc. So that's basically what's going on in Ontario right now. Wolfranium wants to know: did you hear about Spain's new president and corruption scandals? I have not. Zhao Zhao, what do you think about Die Linke in Germany? I have a friend who campaigned for them. I do not know who they are. I don't know that much about German politics. I'm sorry. Does Spain have both a king and a president? I don't know. I think, yeah, somebody said a prime minister, but they called him the president. I think that's like a holdover. Is the polite Canadian stereotype true? Sorry if it's a dumb question. No, it's not a dumb question. It is. Canadians have a sort of reflexive politeness that makes us fairly agreeable to a lot of people outside the United States. But I will they're agreeable, but like the thing is that a lot of the times we're polite. It means that it's harder to see. Like I think my wife told me, because my wife's an immigrant from the United States, that in Canada it's harder to tell where you stand with people because we'll be polite to other people even if we don't like them. And there's also the fact that our politeness means that we don't talk about controversial things. We don't want to start fights, which means issues about social justice and talking about racism in Canada are not subjects that come up very often in polite discussion because we don't want to get a lot of stuff. My friend Tristan, what do you think would happen if the Earth, if every nation with nukes on Earth launched every single nuke they have, including hydrogen nukes everywhere with large population centers? There would not be a human race after that. There's enough nuclear weapons to basically carpet bomb the entire planet several times over. There would not be a human race afterwards. Hope you do more video collaborations with Cody from the Alternate History Hub. I should be having a cameo in his next video, and we're working on a three-piece collaboration soon, basically as soon as I can get the script done, with Emperor Tigerstar and Cody. It's going to be like a 3-part history of Germany. So that's something that's in progress. But I did voiceover for a video for Cody that should be coming out. It's his next video anyway. Or it should be his next video. He's working on it. Have you ever been into the northern regions of Canada, like the Yukon and all that? No, I haven't. Thoughts on Lauren Southern? I can't tell if she's a useful idiot for the alt-right or a dog-whistling fascist. I don't really know Lauren Southern all that much, but I think that she's a person who uses white genocide a lot, which makes me think that whatever she is, she's bad. Girthax wants to know, can Bernie end the war on drugs if he becomes president? How would he? If Bernie was president, he would be, even with a large Democratic majority, he would have a hard time to be fighting his own party for a lot of things. But I think that there are a few things he could pass. He could legalize marijuana. He could change some rules that the Democrats get on board with. Could he end the drug war entirely? That's tough. I'm not 100% sure on that, but he could definitely make a dent. American politics, despite how angry it is, moves very slow, especially if you want to make lasting change. So, I mean, disbanding the DEA and ICE would be nice, but I feel like that would be a thing that would require a lot. That would require a bill, and I think that getting all the Democrats on board for that would be tough because there's way too many corporate Democrats. But you know, what can you do? I'm sure he can make a dent, though. I'm sure that he could talk people into DEA reform. He could talk people into changing policies on how to deal with drugs, maybe banning mandatory minimum sentences, things like that might help. Will you continue the Stellaris playthrough as the Aztecs? Maybe. I actually have gotten a bit better at Stellaris since, or I've started. Last time when I streamed Stellaris as the Aztecs, I think it was a way more Um, the game was really new with the new version. Everything was really weird, and so I think that I could do a lot better than I did last time. But if you guys want to see me play Stellaris again, I'm not sure that that stream went down so well with people. But if I find myself with an evening to myself where I'm home alone and my wife's away somewhere, then maybe I could maybe I could do that. All right, Fedor wants to know, what if the U.S. had made Canada part of their nation, as could have happened several times in history, even when the interbellum through diplomacy? Well, Fedor, that's actually the topic of the video that I have a cameo in with Yeltsin History Hub. So stay tuned, because that's actually that scenario you just laid out is precisely the scenario that Cody and I worked on for his for the video that I'm in. So take a look. Have you voted, Tyler? Tyler Graham wants to know if I voted. Yes, I actually did. I voted early. I voted over a week ago. Chloe, are you familiar with the YouTube channel Alternate History Hub? I very much am. Cody, who runs the Alternate History Hub, and I are pretty good friends. We have hung out together. We've eaten giant steaks together. We've waited in ridiculously long lines at tiki bars together, and we've been running the podcast for a number of months. We've done a collaboration video together. Yeah, we tight. Golden Ouroboros wants to know, Tristan, what if the United States just decide to say Canada belongs to us, invades it, killing anyone that gets in their way, and nuke any nation that tries to stop them? Well, that's a very quick way for the U.S. to become a pariah state in a very short amount of time. Couple things to say to that. The international community would come down on the United States like a ton of bricks. They would be in pretty rough shape pretty fast, because the U.S. relies a lot on imports to keep their economy running. And I think that pretty much no country on earth would trade with the United States if they decided to unilaterally invade a country with no provocation whatsoever, and use nuclear weapons in response. That would end very, very rough. Also, Canada is a gigantic country, and trying to control an area of the second largest country on Earth would be pretty tough. Jonathan Sims wants to know, Mortal Engines Quartet thoughts. Don't know what that is. Sorry. Jingatree 121. Did you know that the UK people call white middle-aged fashy men gammon to mock their pink-red fash faces? That is amazing. That's pretty great. The old Tomster the old Tomster. I heard your Green Party is somehow different from the USA's Greens. Is that true? Do you even know? Yeah. The Green Party in Canada is very different from the US one. It's less right, or it's less left-wing than the Green Party is in the United States. It caters less to anti-science rhetoric. In Canada, the Green Party is still anti-nuclear. That's why I don't support them. But they have a policy that's very much of green, like environmental issues are forefront and important. And besides that, your number one job is to represent your local constituents, which means that the Green Party MPs can be very different. And they've never had enough seats to have party lines or anything like that. And so in federal parliament right now, there's one Green Party MP, and her name is Elizabeth May, and she's pretty neat, especially because at like a big event, she got drunk, and it was great. But the Green Party is interesting. They routinely get about 10% of the popular vote, but they only ever get the one seat in Vancouver. And I do think that there should be like the Green Party is suffers from the first past the post system, but our Green Party here is a little bit more free market, a little bit more right wing than the American one. Fedor wants to know, what do you think about the Danish anarchistic community of Christiania? I don't think too much because that's the first time I've ever heard of it. That's kind of cool, though. Christiania is a cool name. W.R. Costin, did you remember to vote? More importantly, what happened to the stash? I did vote. I voted early. I went to the advanced polls because it was easier that way because I needed to register at the same time. Because in Canada, you can register to vote and vote in the same day. So I voted. I voted for Suze Morrison, who is the NDP candidate in my riding, who I've been volunteering for and making new Facebook videos for. So, had to do it. And what happened to the stash? So, So I was going to go trim my beard yesterday, and I accidentally had the buzzer thing on the too low of a setting, so it actually just shaved it. And I basically had to do the whole thing at that point. And so here I am. So I got to regrow the beard over again so that I can keep it at a nicer place than where it was. All right. Let's see. Pooh55 AD asks, question, suppose there's another American Civil War. Do you think the government would be willing to use nuclear weapons, i.e. on U.S. soil, to win/end it? I don't think that it would ever come to that. Is the U.S. above using nuclear weapons? No. I mean, they're the only country that's ever used them. But things have to be pretty desperate for them to use nuclear weapons in a civil war, because really whoever has support of the military would be pretty much going to win. I mean, there's like Predator drones and stuff that would make winning a war like that pretty easy. There's really never going to be like a civil war in the way that like the one that happened in the 19th century. There's just the power of the United States military is just way too strong now. All right. Kristen, why are there a lot of Canadian women on Twitch and in acting, and why do you think a lot of people in the States immigrate to Canada? So I don't know why there are a lot of there's a lot of Canadian women and men who are actors in America. I don't know about Twitch, but so there's a couple things we could talk about with that. Like, one, Canada has so Canada actually invests a lot of money in cultural stuff. So like our film industry and our music industry and all those kinds of things. So it's actually pretty easy to, well, it's not easy, but it's easier than in the United States to become a popular artist, or to become an artist who makes a living off things, because we have a lot of like grants and a lot of things so that we can keep Canadian culture going. Because you think if we live next to the United States, Canada would lose. Like, Canada would have its culture completely subsumed by American pop culture. And so in order to keep, like, Canadian musicians and Canadian actors and Canadian filmmakers going, they have a lot of government investment in those things. And so we have a lot of rules, like the Canadian content laws, which is saying that a third of all content on the radio and on television has to be Canadian, and things like that. And so there's a lot of ways where if you're a popular Canadian musician, you can grow very fast through these methods. And then on top of that, if you get popular in Canada, because of the cultural similarity, it's very easy for you to then get popular in America. And so, because, same accent, a lot of similar cultural ties and things like that. So very much, if you become famous in Canada and there's a lot of things that will help you boost your way to becoming famous in Canada, you can then go to America and get more money. And that's the story of a lot of actors and a lot of comedians and things like that. That's why you'll notice, if you look at where a lot of people are from, there's a lot of Canadian comedians and a lot of things like that. Have you heard the scandal recently about how 278 zip codes in Canada don't have clean water, similar to Flint? Yeah, it's one sign amongst many that the U.S. has a serious infrastructure problem. They haven't fixed roads and pipes and things like that in decades, and that also is unfairly distributed. And so in the United States, there's a lot of poor and black communities that don't get good infrastructure, especially water infrastructure. And that results in there being a lot of communities that are like Flint with major like water contamination issues. The thing that makes Flint a little different is that they switched water sources to save money, not much money, like $100 a year. And they used a new water source that resulted in a lot of a more acidic water that ended up corroding all of those lead pipes, and a lot of lead got in the water, which has like serious impacts on development and health of American people. Because if you have lead in the water as you're growing up, you're going to have impaired mental development. If you have lead in your body, you're going to have all sorts of health problems later in life. So it's pretty big. Yeah, so it's getting rid of the lead infrastructure in America would be a very good thing. But America's, I think I'm mentioning in, no, never mind. That's not a video that ever happened. I mentioned somewhere that the U.S. is about 60 years behind the rest of the world when it comes to updating their infrastructure, and it's pretty bad. And it's not looking like it's going to get better anytime soon. Jenga Tree 121, did you know you could ride horses in Breath of the Wild, Tristan? Yes, I did. I have a horse that I named Horse, and him and I are best friends. It's great. I love Horse. Jeez. Is there people in the chat talking about how they don't watch my videos? That's a little weird. Oh, well. Hanbaluki, wait, what are you are not vegetarian? I used to be a vegetarian. I'm not anymore. Basically, it was a thing of convenience when I was in when I was an undergrad, and then I kind of just never went back. And my wife's not a vegetarian, and it would be pretty rough on her if I became a vegan or something like that. So I just never did it. I don't even know who. Oh, you're talking about JJ McCullough. Okay, that's good. Question Verbrot. Why did you label Warcraft as watered down Warhammer? Well, so Warhammer, the game is like this like hardcore fantasy where they take like the Tolkien stuff and then they make it really dark. Like, you know, the dwarves are facing extinction and they're in this blood feud against the orcs that is only going to result in one of them going extinct. And like, you know, the dark elves are these like sinister creatures that love torture and violence, and there's like gods of chaos and destruction. It's very dark. And what the Blizzard stuff tries to do, I think this is also true with StarCraft and Warhammer 40K, is they take stuff from that setting. I mean, they're both borrowing from Dungeons and Dragons, but there's some stuff from Warhammer distinctly taken for Warcraft. And you can tell that Warhammer is the inspiration. Warhammer and Dungeons and Dragons are the two inspirations for the Warcraft universe. And the Warcraft universe, in order to sell video games to a more general audience, to make things rated teen, they had to downplay the more brutal and genocidal aspects of the Warhammer universe. And so that's why I call it watered down. But There actually is a conspiracy theory that I actually would not think is incorrect, that the Warcraft universe, like the lore of the Warcraft universe, is actually the campaign setting for a D&D campaign that the people who founded Blizzard have been playing for like a decade. And that like major characters in the Warcraft universe, like Thrall and Jaina and them, are actually like they're actually like player characters from this campaign. I wouldn't be surprised about that. But also when it comes to like StarCraft, if you don't think that the Zerg are the Tyranids and that the Protoss are the Eldar, then I don't know what to tell you. Okay. I'm writing down these questions real quick. All right. Centricane. Oh, any meetups anytime soon? This is from GNC Centric. I'm going to be in Toronto soon, and I want to meet you. I haven't planned any meetups, but I think that the last one was really successful. We might be able to do it again. I think that I wouldn't be against it. I don't know. I'm going to have to see, because like right now my life is going through a huge state of flux. I'm really all right, I'll write down to do a video, or to at least add to my pile of potential video ideas, Christiania. I do feel like I'm going to get tapped to write about like every single like anarchist commune that has ever existed in history, but whatever. So yeah, my life is in a bit of flux right now, and I'm currently looking for a job, and so I don't even know what my life is going to look like in July, let alone like what I can plan for the near future. So I'm not sure when the next meetup will be. It will really depend upon what my job ends up being soon. Oh, I'm sorry about my. I have to be more consistent in my talking. I apologize for that. Jenga Tree 121. What's your favorite video game? My favorite video game is probably Stellaris. I feel like I really enjoy the emergent storytelling of that, and I think that if there was ever a game that came as close to making these like emergent stories happen, I like them a lot. Crusader Kings 2 is pretty good for that too. Although I don't play it that much anymore because I've kind of there's been so many expansions I've kind of forgotten how to play. And so I don't really know what to do about that. But I also like RimWorld quite a bit. I like Diablo 3 a little bit, but Diablo 3 I don't play as much. I like Overwatch. I'd probably say my favorite video game is Stellaris. And if they ever made a version of Dwarf Fortress that didn't look like iDeath, then I'd probably try that out too, because I've heard it's pretty good. And that kind of game is what I like. I like a lot of games that are based on Dwarf Fortress, but are not Dwarf Fortress, because Dwarf Fortress is an eyesore. Wolframium, Tristan, do you share your political ideology with your wife? To an extent. My wife's a lot less radical than I am, and she is often pretty nervous about when I get kind of extremist. And she's like, you know what? You just have to deal with it, because like the only other radical woman I know is Mexi. So like, you're stuck with me. And I'm like, oh, she's still very left wing, but she's very not radical. How tall are you? I am just about 6 feet tall. I think every time I get, sized to be, my height or whatever, I never see I never get told what. I always get told I'm somewhere between 6 feet and 6'1". I honestly don't care that much, but that's about where people say I am. About 180 centimeters, yeah. The U.S. and Russia have to fight a war, but for whatever reason, neither side are able to use nukes. Who would win? The United States. The United States has all the technology. The United States has more urban centers and greater industrial capacity. I feel like Russia would and deeper oil reserves. I think that and more international allies. So Russia wouldn't stand much of a chance. All right. We're getting a little. We've got 10 minutes left, so I'm going to see if I can do these questions a bit faster. Would you consider making a video about the history of politics and sports, especially with the recent NFL anthem showing that this isn't the first time athletes have made political statements? That sounds like a good quick step video. I worry about it because I'm not a big sports guy, but I think I could say something. Have you heard of the ballot initiative in California to legalize mushrooms? Oh man, that would be interesting. Have you played WoW? I did for a number of years, from 2004 until about 2009, maybe 2010. I was pretty into it, but not anymore. My parents are though. My parents are into it right now. They have been. Terry Weaver, do you know much about Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand Prime Minister who's young, pregnant, unmarried? I have heard of her. I think she's pretty awesome. I just don't know that much about her besides that. Why did your wife immigrate to Canada? She did her PhD in Canada and then met me, which was the greatest mistake of her life. And then we got married here, and she basically likes. Could you go overtime? No, I'm sorry, Sir Zhao Zhao, I can't. I actually have a phone call pretty soon after the stream ends, so I can't. But yeah, so my wife came to Canada to do her PhD, met me. We got married a bit after she finished her PhD, and she just liked a lot of the ways that Canada is, and so she has permanent residency now. I thought Warcraft was adapted from the Warhammer game that the rights fell through from. That could be true, too. Excited for Premier Ford? Oh, boy. It's going to be quite a thing. I'm incidentally between jobs now, too, and considering spending another year at home taking care of our kids. That's a good idea, Fedora. You should that if you can afford to do it, then sure. All right. In Cairo, what would you think of a united European state like the United States? Probably better than the way it is now, but I'm not exactly sure where that would go. Michael Kirchner, do you go on alternate history websites? I used to when I was younger. I'm not too much into it anymore. I find that a lot of alternate history is people exploring their political fantasies, and most of them end up being pretty racist. So the like fan alternate history thing is not really my jam, because it's usually like people exploring like their Nazi fantasies and things like that. Radical pacifism can't be extremist. Okay. Would you ever do a fan hangout stream? Would that be something that people would find interesting? Like people wanting to hang out with me? I feel like that could get very busy very fast. I'd have to figure out how it would work in a fun way. Are you in favor of worker cooperatives? Well, 255 AD, I am reasonably in favor of them. I think that they're better than what we have now. I don't think they're perfect, but I think they're better. I would take a cooperative over a non-cooperative, but I would take a non-capitalist society over one that has cooperatives. Hello, China girl. China girl, is that how you say that? Hello. Um, Tristan, who will win the FIFA World Cup? Definitely France. I'm going to be a big advocate for France. Although, isn't there like some country like Gambia or some like random like dark horse team won? Maybe I'll support them. So go for it. Uh, what do you think of the teaser trailer for Fallout 76? I haven't seen it, but the idea of a Fallout-based like survival game sounds pretty fun to me. We know you can sing, but can you dance? I cannot dance. No, no, no. Were the Kush the first black civilization? I do not know. Where are your kitties? They're not here. They must be in the bedroom. Why France to win the World Cup? I don't know. I'm kind of French, and that's a team that I know is in the World Cup and does well. And for all of the Anglophiles in Canada, it pisses them off when I support France. So, it's fun. Do you think that the leaden pipes may have caused Trump's win? While that sounds nice, I don't think so. I think that Trump's support was in the middle class communities that are not dealing with lead in their water. No, Trump's victory has to do with the collapse of neoliberalism and the failing by the Democrats to address the real problems that are going on in the world. Basically. What happened to the match between Israel and Argentina? I have no idea. Have you read any alternate history by S.M. Sterling? No, I have not. 255 AD, I have not. I get in a lot of trouble because my favorite alternate history novel, or my favorite alternate history story, is not really a piece of alternate history that a lot of people think of it as. My favorite alternate history story is The Sound of Thunder, which is a short story about time travel where basically they mess up one thing in like the dinosaur times and they come back and a president won a different person won the presidential election. That seems to be the only difference. I think that's kind of neat. But I've tried to read a few. I've tried to read a few things. Like I've tried to read a few alternate history novels, and I find that sometimes the idea is good and the execution less so. I tried reading In the Balance, and I could never really get that far. I also can't get. I also read about half of the Man in the High Castle, and it was just too meandering. Like the story wasn't going anywhere, and I really wish that alternate history books would focus on the story that's happening instead of like getting really lost in the setting. And if you want to do that, like release that as its own thing. I think that my FIFA plan is to just support the non-white countries against the white countries. Let's see how much fun that gets for people. All right, what do you think of universal basic income? I think that it's a better, it's a option that would make things better than it is elsewhere. We were going to have it in Ontario, but I imagine Doug Ford's going to kill that. I think it's a good idea. I think it would make a lot of positive change, and that would be nice. I don't think it's the panacea that's going to solve all of the world's problems, though. And I could see issues with inflation, yes. But yeah, I'm not 100% on where these things are all going to go. Where do you get those funny memes you post on Twitter, or do you make them yourself? Usually I just grab them off Reddit, to be honest. They're just funny things I find on Reddit. The Chapo Trap House Reddit is usually a good source of the political memes. Why does the U.S. give poor people food stamps instead of money? Basically, it's like a means testing thing to go to, like, avoid having to deal with like, they always say that it's because they want to stop people from doing drugs, but really it's a way to tell the poor what they can and can't do with their government handouts, because in America, when their social society stuff, they're like, their safety net is extremely demeaning and designed to try and help people as little as they can possibly get away with. But I think I'm running out of time, so I'm going to have to wrap up here. Thank you guys so much for coming out to the stream today. I think I'm going to be seeing you guys next week in the stream. It's going to be really fun. New video coming out. And then, of course, on the 21st, there's not going to be a stream because I'm not going to be in the country. So here's a link to the new video. I hope you guys have a great week. Hopefully my beard will be back a little bit by next week, and hope you guys have a great time. Bye.